Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Redskins Talk TV. This is your host, Ray. I just got finished watching this very frustrating game. We end up losing to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who came in to FedEx Field at 1-8. Now, when I said in my pregame analysis video that the Buccaneers, despite the record, they're not a shit team. They play with a lot of effort, more so than you would find with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and definitely much more than the Raiders. And this isn't me dissing those teams, but I'm just saying that despite their record, they brought it pretty much every game to where when you look at their game for week to week, you're not seeing some lopsided scoring deficit between them and their opponent in which they lost. But with this game, let's go ahead and jump into it. Now, first and foremost, for me, I didn't get a chance to see the first quarter. I missed most of the second quarter because I was at work. I was working from 9:30 to 12:30, knowing that I was going to miss at least the first half hour. I just so happened to get a call at 12:27, and that call took me to close to damn near 1 o'clock. So when I get home, I'm already pissed off because I missed a good, half of the game for the most part. But from what I saw, let's just jump right into this. Trent Williams was injured, some sort of knee or ankle or both, but he was injured, so the protection on the left side, RG3, he didn't have that. When I'm looking at the offensive side of the ball, there's a lot of things that I missed. Now, initially, I saw just in the first half, Alfred Morris had about 69 yards in the first half. So here I am sitting there thinking, damn, my boy Alfred Morris is going to get 100 yards. He's actually going to eclipse the century mark for the first time this season. Lo and behold, that didn't happen. And as I've always said, the game, the way it's played, we need to lean on Alfred Morris, but at the same time, getting Robert Griffin III out of the pocket. And this game clearly shows that with him getting hit, and I'm talking about Robert Griffin III, him getting hit as often as he did, getting sacked 6 times, you have to attribute that part to RG3, part to the offensive line. Now with RG3, and once again, I don't give him a clear pass. He has some bad throws. I know he had 2 interceptions. I didn't get a chance to see those because those happened in the first quarter. Maybe early into the second quarter. From what I did see, one of those passes was deflected because he was trying to get it to Garcon, and it was deflected. The defender got it, ran it back for 6 points, and of course they get the PAT afterwards. And then the other one resulted in 3 points. So that's 10 points as a result of the turnovers with the interceptions. But the question is establishing the run, leaning on Alfred Morris, getting the ball into his hands and taking the pressure, one, off the offensive line, but more importantly, taking the pressure off of RG3. Yes, he can play the game. I'm sitting there going back and forth with RG3 haters saying, put in another quarterback, this and that. Like I said, he had a couple of bad passes. The game, as far as winning and losing, when I watch the game, I break down a lot of shit because I can't sit here and clearly blame one person for a win or a loss, because when you look at it, the score, 27-7, at least 10 of those points were the fault of RG3. And even with the pick 6, the ball being deflected and going into the opponent's hand, that can happen to any quarterback, whether it's Tom Brady, Eli Manning, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees. It could have happened to any one of those quarterbacks. He didn't clearly throw it to the defender like you would have seen Kirk Cousins staring down a wide receiver. So you give him half a pass on that, but all the same, a turnover is a turnover. It never bodes well for our team. But at the same time, going back into this, we're looking at the offensive line. They were porous. With Trent Williams going out, there's pressure coming from all directions. And this is something that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have been doing all season, except for they haven't come up against an offensive line quite as bad as ours. Now, can't blame this on Tyler Columbus because he's been benched. But Tom Compton, he didn't fare well. Whoever spelled in on the left side for Trent Williams when he went down, he didn't do too well. And there were even some rushes in between the guards and the centers and all that. But overall, 6 sacks that the offensive line allowed. Part of that could have been due to staring down the receivers and holding on to the ball too long. But at the same time, when I look at those sacks, I also look at primarily what's happening with the wide receivers. I know it's going to be a pass play. So when Robert Griffin III jumps back or takes the snap and goes back into his reads, I'm not necessarily looking at him. I'm looking at the offensive line first to see where the pressure's coming from. And then I'm also quickly glancing at the pass catcher as they're going out on the routes. Are they getting off the line of scrimmage, or are they getting jammed up? Because that's going to make them hold the ball a little bit longer than normal. Are they being blanketed? Is the safety over the top? Now, there were a couple of pass plays. I did see one where Deshaun Jackson clearly had his man beaten. There was another one that I saw I didn't see, but before I got home, where he was clearly open. And for the one that I saw, RG3 overthrew him. So, needs more touch on the ball. As you know, putting that up in the air, that's where he needs to work on his mechanics, squaring up his shoulders, keeping his feet planted, using his hips on the throws and everything like that. But when you look at everything else, you see some drop passes by the receivers, some passes from behind. That happens. That's all on the quarterback. But at the same time, we abandon the run. And for us to abandon the run, especially when we had plenty of time left in the game, it didn't help. And Alfred Morris, for all that he did in the first half, here I am thinking that he's going to go well over 100 yards. He ended up on the day with 96 yards. And we didn't really get back to the run until the last 4 minutes of the game. So I'm sitting there wondering what the fuck. So part of that's play calling. The loss is a team effort. It's on the coach. With the play calling, some of these bubble screens and shit that we're calling, if we're 3rd and 19, why are we calling for screen plays? They know that the guys are going to be a little bit more lax. They're going to play about 5 yards off the scrimmage instead of what our corners did. And I'm going to get to them motherfuckers in a brief moment, because I did talk about them in my pregame analysis and what I saw from the game. Well, we'll talk about that. But I saw Roy Helu. I thought he was down, but he had clearly gotten the first down, got tackled, and he got the ball poked out of his arm, out of his grasp, apparently before his knee came down. I thought his knee was down. They said it was a fumble. The Buccaneers maintained that. They didn't get any points off of it, but that just took our momentum away, because we were already on our side of the field. We're on the Buccaneers side of the field, past the 50. I think we're like around the 40, 35-yard line, trying to get some momentum, and that killed us. Once again, as far as the run game, we need Alfred Morris. We need to put the ball into his hands, and also getting RG3 out of the pocket. There were a lot of plays in which they were anticipating a potential for him to run, so they had that covered. But, the pistol formation and everything, it allows for so much flexibility, because now it makes the defenders have to worry who's going to get the ball. Is it going to be Alfred Morris? Is it going to be Darrell Young? Are they going to put a wide receiver back there? Is it going to stay in RG3's hands? But there's no imagination with the offensive play calling to maximize the ability of RG3. They're trying to make him strictly a pocket passer. He can do that, but he does best when he's on the move and he's looking downfield. And of course, by doing that, the wide receivers also have to give help, because when the play breaks down, they have to be able to come back and find a way to get open, or at least make the defender commit to thinking that there's going to be a block or something to where they hesitate briefly. We're not getting that in the offensive side of the game. As far as the defense, we couldn't get any pressure on Josh McCown. Now, Josh McCown, he can get out of the pocket. He's kind of like a Ryan Fitzpatrick, where you don't expect him to get out of the pocket, but when he does, he's kind of squeaky. He gets out there, he makes the right play at the right time, and it just so happens where man coverage or something like that, there's no defenders around, and he's able to get to a first down or close to a first down. But there's no pressure coming up the middle, none at all, none coming off the edges. A few hurries, yes, but we weren't able to cause or force any type of errant throw that was going to allow for turnovers by linebackers or corners. Speaking of our corners, we have David Emerson and Bashad Breeland. Now, I told you, covering big receivers is going to be a task. Vincent Jackson, he doesn't have that over-the-top speed. He doesn't have the step that he had when he was with the Chargers, but he can still make plays. He can still get open. He's kind of like an Ed McCaffrey, where certain motions where he uses his arms when he's running makes you think he's running faster than what he actually does. But he's so big at 6'5", 230 pounds. He can out-jump a lot of corners and safeties that are defending him. but he didn't have that big of a game. But the game ball has to go to Mike Evans. I mean, you're talking about 7, 8 passes that he caught, well over 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was uncontested off the line of scrimmage. And as I said, as a corner, yes, the receiver, no matter how big they are, getting up close to the line of scrimmage and within that 5 yards, just subtly punching him, not literally punching him, but subtly just putting a hand on the chest to kind of hold him in place, or at least reroute him, throw him off of his pass pattern. That is crucial in order for our guys on the defensive line to hopefully pin their ears back and get to the quarterback. We weren't getting that. The defensive linemen were not getting any help from the corners. And when you're watching this game, to me, it's sickening where most every play, they're between 5, 7, 10 yards off the line of scrimmage, just allowing for the wide receivers to get off the line to go for a quick in route or any other pattern. But in this case, with Mike Evans on one of the plays, Bashar Breeland just didn't get his hands on him and got ran around, and Ryan Clark was too far up and he got beat. So that was his first touchdown. And then the second one where we didn't have Breeland on him, which I think they should have had him covered. And initially they had Trent Murphy over top of him at the line of scrimmage. Trent Murphy didn't check him and he ran uncontested off the line of scrimmage. It was up to Perry Riley to cover him, which, that's a damn mismatch right there. That was his second touchdown. And at the same time, he was all over the place, catching passes here and there, but over 200 yards. As a defense, that should never be permissible. He accounted for over half of the offense for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The running game was pretty much non-existent for the Buccaneers. They didn't really get any good running plays, so we had that in check. But handling Mike Evans, we just didn't do enough looking at the game film to shut him down. The defense just allowed them to go down the field, didn't get any pressure. We were doing pretty well. Even at 13-0, we had a fighting chance. Where he got a touchdown off of a screen play, ran it for about 30, 35 yards. Yeah, so the game was close. But from there, shit just started to break down. RG3 missed a couple of crucial plays. Yes, so you can fault him for that. But when you're looking at this game, as a fan, how can you blame one person, number 10, because number 10 wasn't covering Mike Evans? He wasn't a safety. He wasn't a corner. He wasn't rushing Josh McCown. So you can't blame him when the other team is scoring on us, because that's all on the defense. That's all on Jim Haslett. That's all on Raheem Morris, coaching those guys up to make sure that they're playing physical, playing nasty out there, getting pressure. And as far as the offensive side of the ball, Coach Gruden getting the ball into Alfred Morris's hand, or anyone who is behind RG3 that's going to take the handoff, the offensive line being able to open holes effectively, those things are crucial. I can sit here and blame RG3, but he is one person out of the 33 guys that hits the field when you're talking about the 11 on special teams, 11 on defense, 11 on offense. But for one guy, for the haters that want to blame him in particular, you have to ask yourself, are you really watching the game, or are you just watching the one person who takes a snap and see what goes from there, and keep your eyes focused on him? Like I said, he's not perfect, but he is our quarterback. And when you're looking at the game, I don't think Colt McCoy, or Kirk Cousins could have done any better, because when you have an offensive line that cannot sustain their blocks, we have play calling that doesn't cater to getting the ball into Alfred Morris's hands. That's a problem. Could Kirk Cousins have made some of those deep passes to Deshaun Jackson? More than likely, yes, I would imagine so. But at the same time, when it comes to the running game, we need to establish the ground game first for RG3. Let him use his legs so that they can put more pressure on the defense, make those safeties come up to add more protection up front to keep him in check. And then when it's one-on-one coverage between our wide receivers and the corners, that's when you have that opportunity to get the ball down the field. Also, we didn't really utilize Jordan Reed that much, or Niles Paul. A couple of penalties that really hurt us. I mean, there's a lot of things that really hurt us this time around. This video is a bit longer than normal, but as I stated, when I'm watching the game, I have my notepad. I sit down at my couch, If I'm getting called, I don't eat. My wife calls. She asks me if I want something to eat. I don't eat while I'm watching the game. I refuse to eat because I'm focused on the game. I'm focusing on understanding what it is that we can do. Even if we're winning, I'm analyzing what we can do to win better. But to lose in this fashion, I'm looking at what we truly, what caused us to lose. And it wasn't the fault of strictly RG3, because when you're looking at Alfred Morris not getting the ball often, that's play calling. When you're looking at when we're 3rd and 19 and we're calling for a screen pass, but our blockers can't sustain their blocks and our guys are getting tackled in the backfield or for a little or no gain at all, then you have to worry about the coaching staff, the offensive line coach, the play designs. All those things is crucial as far as understanding why we're faltering the way we are. It's not because of RG3, because when we looked at the game last week against the Minnesota Vikings, he had a solid game. A couple of missed throws here and there, but to have a lead and lose a lead because of defense, is that truly number 10's fault? So for those who want to blame RG3, do you actually understand the game of football? Because in the X's and O's, there's a lot that happens. The defense has to stop the other team. Our defense didn't do that. But the Buccaneers defense stopped us. So that could have been better leadership from RG3, perhaps. But when it comes to the run game, all RG3 has to do is hand the ball off. Keep feeding Alfred Morris the ball, and that's going to help take pressure off of his back. That's going to make things easier because the offensive line, they do a slightly better job run blocking than pass blocking. And with six sacks, you can tell they did a piss poor job protecting number 10 and keeping his jersey clean. That's unacceptable. But I'm going to go ahead and leave it at that. Now, as far as special teams, there were no gaffes on special teams. They've basically gotten their shit together from early in the season when they looked like a train wreck. So that's the only phase of the game where you really can't knock, with the exception of the fact that Andre Roberts still isn't following his blocks, still running laterally here and there, but could be much worse. It could be Brandon Banks back there juking and jiving like Antoine Randall used to. And lastly, this whole bullshit, every time RG3 runs, shut the fuck up. I mean, really. We're talking about someone, he was sliding when, before he got injured with the ankle injury, because that was a fluke. But he was sliding. He was doing everything to protect himself. But for everyone who thinks that he's delicate, he's taking some hits and he's still getting up. So this is something to where all quarterbacks hit. RG3 is not as small, even though he looks small on TV. You talk about someone that's like 6'2", 220 pounds, 217 about. He's not a small wide receiver. When you look at Drew Brees is about the same size. Russell Wilson, he's a bit more compact at 5'11", about maybe 205, 210. But with Robert Griffin III, people commenting every time he runs past the line of scrimmage to try to make something happen with his feet, and everyone gasping like all of a sudden he's rice paper. Just settle the fuck down. I mean, he's going to make plays. He's going to get hit. That's what any person on the football team, hell, even the refs get hit and they still bounce back. So RG3, he's still my quarterback. I still cheer for him. I would cheer for any quarterback behind center, but when number 10 is on the field, if things aren't going his way, for those things that I can see that are his fault, I can point the blame at him. But when I'm also looking at every aspect of the game, the running game, special teams, defense, you can't put that all on number 10's back. Losing is losing, but when you're losing because other team is scoring, especially when you have Mike Evans running rampant the way he did, that's not number 10's fault. Anyway, if you care to debate this, go ahead and leave your comments. To my Redskins family, hail to the Redskins.